this business of Indian politicians being asked, asking Kim Davy to do the job is a new angle, because what I have known so far and what has been published so far, Mr. Bleach, is that there were two other people. I think one of them was Hong Kong based and the other was an international smuggling operation. They were the ones who hired Kim Davy, not any Indian politician, as you mentioned.
Well, no, they didn't hire Kim Davy. The chap he worked with in Hong Kong smuggling gold was his partner. They were partners in their enterprises. Kim Davy wasn't hired by them at all. Kim Davy and his colleagues were hired, I don't know what the financial arrangement was, but certainly he was requested to do this by the Indian government. But I would also point to the circumstances of the trial. For example, I've got here a couple of show cause notices issued by the trial judge in which he finds that the evidence of no less than 6 senior police officers was false and fabricated. And he has issued show cause against them to see why they shouldn't be prosecuted. Now, why would 6 very senior police officers go to court and give fabricated evidence? That's absolute nonsense. Nobody picked it up at the time, but there we have it. There is the order. I've got it in my hand. And that speaks for itself.
1 minute. Just by equal logic, it will be asked of you, Peter Bleach.
Mm-hmm.
Why was anti-tank ammunition brought in? From what I know, the vast amounts of ammunition was brought in, including anti-tank equipment. Now, you don't need anti-tank equipment to bring down the West Bengal government. I mean, that is not the way in which governments function here. At least the system functions here in India. So you need to explain that.
Well, with respect, that's a misunderstanding on your part. The anti-tank weapon is the rocket launcher, an RPG-7. It's a big tube that you put on your shoulder. Now, whether or not it is useful for attacking tanks depends on the ammunition you use for it. And if you look at the specification that of the ammunition that was dropped with this thing, it was high explosive ammunition. What that means is that if you want to attack a police station in the rural districts, instead of having to have 6 or 7 men with AK-47s getting up close, one man can stand off a quarter of a mile away and fire a single rocket into the building and destroy it. It's one of the most popular terrorist weapons going.
No, but
that same round of ammunition would bounce off a tank. It's not designed for that. You can get anti-tank ammunition for that rocket, but this was not anti-tank ammunition that was supplied.
Even if I were to take your point, question is this. How do you prove, I mean, who's the end user of all this ammunition? Was it the Anand Margi?
Well, I was never told that. And I've got here the notes taken by MI5 in August, September 1995. And it says here quite clearly that I am unaware. It says insurgent group details not known. He believes, however, that the state involved is communist and that the group involved are anti-communist. That's the information that I gave directly to MI5 in 1995, and they passed that direct to the Indian government. I don't know whether the Ananda Marg was involved or not. My assumption would be that if they were involved, they were being used by other people. There is a dispute between Ananda Marg and the CPIM. That's public knowledge. You can Google that and read all about it.
What was the MI5? That is a public knowledge. I know that. What was the MI5? What was the British government doing in all of this? I mean, you are completely, absolving the British government, which was fully in the know, by simply saying they gave 3 reminders to the Indian government that such and such drop would happen. Now, what is one? Why should one only implicate elements within the Indian government and absolve the British government? Maybe they were working in league, and the operation got botched up.
Make no mistake, I'm not absolving the British government in this. Whoever they were. And of course, when you say the government, same with the Indian government, you're not necessarily talking about everybody in that government. You're talking about 1 or 2 bad apples. but I'm certainly not absolving the British government. They were in this up to their necks. The facts that have come out since then shows quite clearly that the British government was supporting whoever it was in Delhi trying to destabilize the government of West Bengal. And when it all went wrong, the British government actively helped the Indian people involved to cover up the whole issue, to cover up what had happened. And we now know the name of the MI5 officer involved in that as well.
What's the name?
That's David Shaler.
And that officer was working in coordination with senior members of the British government, who in turn were coordinating with members in the Indian government.
David Shaler openly has written and admitted in the press here that he saw all the altered documents and the unaltered documents supplied to the court by the British government. One of the senior police officers indicted for fabricating false evidence by the trial court was a British special branch officer called Stephen Elcock. And David Shaler admits that he spoke to David Elcock on the matter and that he personally saw these various documents that were altered and before they were altered. So it's quite clear. We're talking about the security service here. You don't have these files unless you're personally involved in the work.
Were the